Okay, guys, John Cutton here. I have a very, very packed agenda as usual today and wanted to kind of bring us back to where we ended our last webinar last month. The focus of today's webinar is really to focus on the meetings with the CPAs and the sales process and to really go deep into meeting 3 and, if time permits, meeting 4. What I wanted to start with is to start by actually talking about some of the recent successes that we've had. And I've had a couple of recent successes in my own practice that I wanted to share one of them with you, actually. And then also I wanted to actually read part of an email that I got from a participant who just finished his first one-year anniversary within the Cutton Consulting Group program. So I'll start with my personal story. And guys, I just share this with you simply to keep our motivation level up and really have everybody continue to hear some positive news so that you're able to continue to stick with the program and to continue to deal with some of what I will call the rejection that we get, which is just part of the business, and to know that ultimately there is light, as they say, at the end of the rainbow. So we actually, in my own practice, one of my partners sourced a lead of a CPA, and the opportunity that we now have is it's a CPA firm that had already created a financial planning arm within their practice, and the advisor that the CPA had partnered with just turned 70 years old. He is looking to get out of the business, and right now the CPA and this financial advisor have about $20 million jointly under management. And in addition to that, financial advisor also has about a $35 million book of business that's his own that's outside of the CPA firm. So the CPA does, I believe, about 710/40s, and he wants us to actually have one of our partners move into his operation. And the real good news here is he also wants us to buy out the 70-year-old financial advisor's existing book of business as well. So huge opportunity that we're going to be able to pick up about $55 million in assets under management and at the same time be in a position that we are now located several days a week in a CPA's practice who does about 700 tax returns a year. That was definitely something worth sharing. And then I just want to also read to you an email, and I get emails like this, guys, honestly, once every week or every other week, just getting updates from advisors in the group. But this is somebody who just finished their first 12 months in the program, and here's the email. It's a short one. John, I talked further to my team, and we are interested in going forward to the Year 2 program. For those of you who aren't aware, and I think most of you at this point probably do realize, that our program is really a 2-year program with a 1-year commitment. So this is an advisor who had enough success that continuing into the Year 2 program, which again is designed to really have Ken and I act more as a consultant to the CPA that has partnered with the financial advisor and helps ensure that the way we integrate financial services into the practice is really being as efficient as possible and taking advantage of mine and Ken's experience there. But then the email continues on to say, to date, we have about $3.5 million in new assets and about $5,000 in financial planning fees and have acquired approximately 17 clients. We have 2 CPAs who are true formal alliance partners and another 4 CPAs who are currently in the pipeline that we expect to become full alliance partners shortly. In addition, our expectation is this coming tax season is when things will really begin to build, as these are new relationships and just blossoming. And then it goes on to thank me for the advice and experience that they've been able to learn from the program. So I share that with you guys just simply because as time goes on here, as we know, and I hit on some of this at our last webinar as well, this is all about being consistent, and it's all about creating activity. In the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, I've conducted what I call exit interviews with 20 advisors who just ended their first-year commitment, just to be updated on results, et cetera. And here's what I would share with you. Of those 20, 5 or 6 of them did not get results. They don't have any formal alliances. They were not necessarily as successful as they hoped. And they all gave me the same feedback. Hey, John, I love the program. It was great material, great information. I now feel better prepared and have the tools necessary to be successful. But for one reason or another, these advisors self-admittedly blame themselves and never got to do the hard work, meaning something came up in their practice, they lost a staff person. I think somebody said that they were ill for a little while. One was very honest and said, hey, I just bit off more than I can chew this past year, and CPAs just didn't fall squarely on my radar screen. I'm sharing that with you because the other 14 or 15 advisors that really did the activity actually all got results. Not one of them came back and said, hey, John, I saw 2 CPAs a week for 8 months out of the year, understanding during tax season that's not going to happen, and I have no relationships. Most of them had multiple relationships, and none of them had no relationships. Only the advisors who self-admittedly didn't work the program. So one of the things that I don't want anybody, any of the participants in the group to forget is this is also about effort, it's about focus, and it's about energy. And part of my job, I think, is not only to teach you, but also to hopefully help hold you accountable a little bit and to give you what I will call an occasional pep talk to ensure that you're really focusing your energy and that you continue to make sure that the key activities are happening on a weekly basis. So that's really why I try to start off with a couple of recent successes, is really to help keep everybody's motivation level high and help you manage what I call your emotional competency. Because clearly, guys, this is not a C10 CPAs and sign 2 up. Hopefully we all know that by now. You've heard me say it, I don't know, probably 1,000 times. It's not a sprint, but it's a marathon, and it's really about continuing to follow the process and to be consistent in your approach. So with that being said, I wanted to just start today's presentation as we usually do with some quick housekeeping. As a reminder, rules of engagement for webinars, use your raise hand feature, which will allow me to unmute you so you can ask your question out loud to the group and then I will answer. Or, which is what most people seem to do, is a feature where you can just hit the send question button and you write your question in. It will be sent to me privately, and then I can either give you a written response, or usually if time permits, I'll read your question aloud and I'll answer it to the group. So as you know, there's always a lot of questions on these calls, and I like to keep them coming simply because I think we can all learn from each other's questions and learn from the experiences and successes and failures that we're all having out there in the field. So today, as I said, we have a pretty solid filled agenda. I do not believe we will get through everything on the agenda, but as always, we will pick up where we left off, and we will continue that at our next scheduled webinar. So we've already reviewed some of the recent successes. I want to briefly discuss some of the actionable items from the last webinar, which I will do in a couple of moments as well. I want to revisit the CPA relationship model and that Lagulo piece, which is that referral building manifesto. And I want to just real quickly, while I'm on that bullet point, just take a quick second and share with you that over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, I've had many, probably over a dozen, scheduled calls with participants in the group that wanted to use their 30-minute call for what I'll call troubleshooting. Here's what I'm finding, guys, and I think it's really important that one of the things I want everyone to walk away with from today's call is really understanding, and I want you to listen to my words carefully here, I want you to really be able to walk away and understand and almost internalize what it is we are trying to do in every interaction with the CPA, which is pushing that ball forward, as you've heard me say before. And the reason I'm sharing that is as I dig deeper into troubleshooting where our advisors in the group are not having the successes that they would like to, the most common theme that I'm finding is advisors are not following the process. They're going too quickly. and they're truly not taking enough time to build credibility with the CPA. And what's happening is they're taking the CPA's cues in the wrong way, and then what happens is we move too quickly and then ultimately don't understand why the CPA stops returning our calls or doesn't want to meet regularly, and the advisor's not understanding where that's coming from. And it's really clear to me from where I sit that what's happening is we're not following the process. We're not building the credibility. We're not pushing the check back quite enough. We're not putting cart before the horse conversation. So one of the things I want to really hone in on today, because something where I think a lot of us are having trouble, is really ingraining into your thought process exactly what your intention should be every time you sit in front of a CPA, so that we're taking the small steps, but we're being good listeners, right? Remember, guys, good salespeople spend 70% of their time listening, only 30% speaking. But when we're speaking, we have to understand what it is we're trying to influence. And I don't know that we're all connecting that. So I want to spend a little bit of time today on the 4-step sales process as a refresher, and also really going a little bit deeper into what that referral building manifesto is all about. We will revisit that in a bit. I'm going to do a quick overview summary, as I mentioned, of the 4-step process to initiate CPA relationships. Last webinar, we got through the first meeting, we got through the office visit, and we stopped squarely just before how to handle the lunch meeting. So I am going to pick up at the lunch meeting. My gut is we will probably then get through the lunch meeting and then all of the information that pertains to meeting 3, and most likely we will be handling meeting 4 at our next webinar, but we'll see what kind of pace we go at here. We're going to go deep, as I said, into steps 3 definitely, and maybe 4 into that 4-step sales process. And then I want to discuss some actionable items that I want to make sure everybody is working on. The other piece of the program that I don't want you to lose sight of is continuing to be in a position that we are dripping on CPAs and keeping ourselves in constant contact with CPAs. Those little random acts of kindness that I delegate out each webinar, those are having a huge impact to the advisors that are doing it. As I'm speaking to advisors on calls and asking how it's going, part of the feedback I'm getting back is probably 50% of you are not doing those random acts of kindness. And I will share with you a quick story with you right now, in fact. One of the advisors in my office dropped by a CPA's office to drop off bagels and cream cheese to the office for no reason. They just stopped by, stopped at the bagel store, picked up a dozen bagels and cream cheese, and dropped it off to come say hello. While the advisor dropped the bagels off, the CPA came up to thank him and say hello, asked if they happened to hear from a client that the CPA referred our advisor to about 3 or 4 months ago. Advisor had no idea he was ever even referred. CPA said, hey, while you're here, let's make a quick phone call and see if we can get the client on the phone. Long story short, the meeting was held at the CPA's office with the advisor from my office. It's a 7-figure account. Okay, had our advisor not shown his face in the office, guess what? That referral never would have happened. One of the things you hear me say a lot is it's the little steps. It's not one thing. It's the 100 little things that we're teaching you to do that if you're doing 90% of those 100 little things, that's where the success is going to come from. You can't do 2 or 3 things and think you're going to be successful. You really have to follow the program as a whole to get the maximum benefit. Okay? So when I have little anecdotes like that, I really like to just share them so that everybody can kind of see how these little things affect the big picture. Then lastly, guys, we're going to spend some time permits, on Q&A. So actionable items from last webinar, and I'm going to hit this kind of quickly, guys, okay? We should be continuing to build our lead database. At all times, you should have a minimum of 50 leads that you or your SWAT team are working on. And at the very least, we should be adding at least 5 new CPA leads on a weekly basis. You got your existing client base, building your own list, through research or just purchasing a lead list, going to Yellow Pages, etc. So that should be a given now. We should have that in place, but we need to continue to increase it. Another really important piece, guys, create and continue to implement your SWOT meetings. As you know, I do a SWOT meeting every single day. I want you to at least spend an hour with your SWOT team. I have a saying, as you guys know, it's the leader, it's always the leader. If you are not engaged with your team and you're not holding them accountable, it's like a ship sailing without a captain. So you really need to ensure that you can continue to develop your team's skill set. Many of the advisors that are in the program have their staff listen to these webinars as well, and I strongly recommend that you do it because they're going to really pick up information that will make them more effective in their prospecting efforts as well as supporting you on the follow-up and the being a good wholesaler part of things. So if you're not doing that, make sure that they get enrolled into these webinars as well, or when we send you out those replays, make sure that they are part of those replays or have the opportunity to listen. 2 CPA meetings each week. If that's not happening, guys, right now, the reality is it is most likely due to lack of effort. We got to sit down with 2 CPAs a week. If the effort is there and you're truly putting in 5 hours weekly of dialing, real dialing, and you're not getting the results, you should reach out to me so I can work with whoever the person in your office who's setting appointments is, because we should be able to get in front of 2 CPAs on a weekly basis. And as I said before, the advisors who are doing that in the program are getting results. And then lastly, set any appointments with CPAs that you're already working with and have what I call the difficult conversation. Now, I don't mean there that difficult conversation script that we gave you with the CPA you refer to that doesn't reciprocate back. What I mean is by this point, several months into the program, hopefully you've seen 25 or 30 CPAs. If some of them are not what I call playing nice in the sandbox, meaning they're not returning calls, they're not meeting weekly, bi-weekly, they're not following you, what I really want you to do is to sit down with them and have a heart-to-heart. And I want you to see whether or not they are truly going to be a good partner. Now, if they're not, that doesn't mean don't ever speak to them again. Continue to drip on them, etc. But pick and choose your battles. Take them to lunch a couple times a year. Send them a gift basket. Drop off a couple of gifts. But we don't need to give them, what I'll call the Ritz-Carlton experience or the Four Seasons, right, experience. Save that for the CPAs that are willing to put the time and energy in that are either in your alliance or are headed towards your alliance. That's where I want you to spend your time and energy. The others we continue to drip on, keep that relationship, so when a passive referral is there, you're top of mind. But what I don't want you to do, guys, is not address it. If you're in a position where the CPA has become unresponsive, get a meeting, which, again, you might need to fight for a little bit. Have a heart-to-heart and just be candid and direct and see which direction they want to go. There's no use continuing to spin your wheels and fooling yourself thinking that they're going to change their ways. Be polite, be professional, continue to drip, but don't necessarily give them, as I said, that Ritz-Carlton experience. CPA relationship model. You guys have seen this a bunch of times. For sake of brevity here, I want you to take a second and read through the slide. I'm not going to spend any time here today. All I do want to share with you is this. If we're taking shortcuts, we're not going to be successful. I have advisors that I speak to in the group who are saying, oh, yeah, we never did the office visit with this particular CPA, or we never did go out and break bread and have that lunch. So if you don't follow the process that I built out was developed through trial and error. I finally cracked the code, not that it works 100% of the time, mind you, but I finally cracked the code to realize that, hey, if I miss this step, they stop returning my call. Or if I miss that step, what happens is I scare them away. So if you follow all of the steps that we laid out, it doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees that you don't take a good opportunity and make the same mistake that I may have made in that opportunity 2 or 3 years ago. So learn from my experiences. Own this model. I put it up on every webinar for a reason, because it is at the core of my thinking. It's at the core of my intent in every interaction I have with the CPA. And if I can get that again into your subconscious so that you also have it ingrained in you, that's where you're going to become very, very successful. So the Referral Building Manifesto, again, this is exactly in line with what I want you to get internalized. That first meeting starts with you, and you are an unknown commodity. We all know what Serini calls us, right? A step above a used car salesperson. So what we need to do is use our human relations skills, right? See that first big blue bubble that you see on your screen? What human relation skills means is that first meeting that we have with the CPA, see where it says similarities? That's what that first meeting is designed to do, right? What I tell you all the time, first meeting is designed to do nothing but get the second meeting and find some commonality with the CPA. You interview them and tell them about your business, right? You want to find similarities both on a personal level and also on a business level. As you're developing those similarities, we're going to share information, discussion points, cooperation points. I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds a lot like an office visit, right? So it says small steps, consistent contact. That second meeting is a small step. It's consistent. It's a week or two tops after the first meeting. This is where I'm sharing information. Here's who I am. Here's how I work. Here's what my process is. Here's what my financial planning tools are, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about that last webinar. Our goal is to go from human relation skills to move towards our utilizing our professional competency skills. And that's part of what that office visit is designed to do, which is why you kind of see that overlap in the bubbles. Testimonials, case studies, that to me is reviewing a financial plan or a Morningstar before and after type scenario. As we create other successes, this is where we get to a point where we're sharing all of these experiences together, both personal and also work-related. So on a personal level, I want them to get to know through this process what I did this weekend and whether or not my kids won their ball game and what I might be doing for the holidays or travel. As we're getting to know each other and you're building at the same time your role or impression of the professional that you are, that's when you start to build credibility. And not until you are credible will you have any authority or any influence over the CPA. When you think about it, guys, the first 2 to 3, maybe even 4 interactions are all about getting the CPA to like you, understand you are a professional just like them, to get an understanding of just what a good job you do for your clients and the systems and structure that you have in place. That will put you at the same level as a CPA in their own mind. You're now a peer and credible in their eyes. Once you're credible in their eyes, that's when there becomes this idea that, hey, I would refer one of my clients to John. He's a nice guy. He's a professional. I happen to like him personally. And in addition to that, I think he is very, very good and credible at what he does. That's when you get to a point where there's trust. And not until there is trust, guys, and CPAs, as we know, are a rare breed, it takes a CPA quite some time to truly build trust. This is why we consistently do takeaways, right? Before we move forward, Ken, I think we should both do some more due diligence. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Everybody get where I'm going with that? Because I know it takes a long time for them to give me trust. They're testing me. I want to continue to pass their test. Once trust is established, that's when there's a willing exchange. And when there's a willing exchange, that's when we get to the levels that we want, which are these joint opportunities. Now, a joint opportunity, guys, to me, means semi-exclusive or exclusive. Doesn't mean they need to get licensed every time and be part of your partnering program or alliance program. although ultimately that should be the goal for everyone, joint opportunities could mean agreeing to meet weekly or biweekly, could mean doing client appreciation events, could mean doing joint marketing, but you're not going to get there until trust is built. Look at this chart more often and make sure that when you're sitting in a meeting with the CPA, you know where you are. Do a check-in. Be self-aware of the relationship so that you can better determine, does the CPA trust me yet? Have I shown he or she enough? Am I getting enough buy-in? Or do I still need to continue to push that ball forward to create more credibility? Hopefully that makes some sense. What I want to do now is shift gears a little bit, and I want to just review all 4 steps in the sales process, knowing we went through the first step and most of step 2, and then spend most of our energy on that 3rd meeting today, and I should say the lunch meeting and that 3rd meeting. So step 1, guys, or meeting 1, as I should call it, is the introductory meeting. What's the purpose, guys? Very simple. It's to introduce yourself, your practice, the firm's philosophy, find common ground, and to simply identify a basis for continued discussions. Put simply, get to the 2nd meeting. Meeting 2 is the office visit. Purpose is to share your operation, introduce the CPA to your team, share examples of your work, type of services you provide, and most importantly, to differentiate your firm from other BDs that are concerned with compensation rather than your client-centric approach. This is where we're building our credibility level. After that office visit, where we're going to spend some time in a minute, we want to break bread, have that lunch meeting, hopefully the same day if possible. The purpose of that meeting, guys, is to continue to build rapport, solicit feedback on your operation, and hopefully get buy-in. 3rd meeting, how to make the relationship work. And again, guys, I want to clarify, it doesn't always go exactly in these 4 meetings, right? Sometimes things move slower. Sometimes things move a little bit more quickly. You've got to be a good judge of the CPA you're working with. As a rule of thumb, no matter what, I would always go more cautious than more aggressive. So in other words, I'd rather you move more slowly than move more quickly. So that 3rd meeting is how to make the relationship work. The purpose of this meeting is to begin to create a vision for the CPA of how this relationship will ultimately work. And then lastly, the one that we all want to get to in the 1st meeting is meeting 4, or step 4, which is business planning. Purpose is to really finally roll up your sleeves and to talk about the business itself and how we as a team can begin to make some revenue together and at the same time improve the advice and experience for the client as a whole. Here's what's important. I want you to look at those 4 steps. I don't even want to call them meetings. I call them steps simply because they won't all happen in an individual meeting. Your goal should be to hit each and every one of these steps when the time is right. And your goal in each meeting, when you're sitting in the introductory meeting, what you should be doing is using your energy, trying to influence that meeting, the one you're in, to ultimately make it compelling for that CPA to come visit you in the office and do an office visit. At the lunch meeting, you should be trying to make a compelling case and influence that CPA to hear how you're going to make the relationship work. And when you're in the making the relationship work meeting, you should be trying to figure out how you're going to get the CPA to buy into what you just told he or she to ultimately get to that business discussion. I'm going to give you guys another example. One of the things that he's struggling with is something a lot of advisors are, which is them trying to go for the kill too quickly. And I gave him an analogy that, quite frankly, I think actually really rang true for him and resonated with him. And the analogy was, we use at MyBD, we've been trained to implement the financial planning process. And when I said to the advisor, whose name is Rob, let me ask you a question. If a new $1 million client stepped into your office today for an introductory consultation, would you say to the client, I think of that $1 million, 30% should go to a variable annuity, 15% should go to large cap equity, 25% should go to laddered municipal bonds, et cetera, et cetera? I said, or is what you would actually do is spend the first meeting telling the client about yourself, learning about the client, spending 70 to 80% of the time asking questions to learn what's important about the client, then building credibility through analyzing their situation, coming back at the next meeting with a detailed written financial analysis detailing your solutions that are tailored to the needs and desires that your client gave them. And then would you ultimately suggest to the client that they take the information once you've explained the concept, and at the next meeting you will go into the details, or what I will call the product solution. And then after you go through that product solution, you would probably tell the client, let's have one more meeting, let's have you think about it, come up with any questions, and then we could decide to start taking some baby steps and moving forward. And he said, yeah, that's exactly how I do it. So my question to him is, why are you not following a similar process with CPAs? So I share that, guys. We're going to use the analogy and take it a step further. We're meeting a CPA once, and then we're telling them, I think you should buy these products. And what we're missing in between is all of the process, credibility, getting to know each other, understanding their concerns, risks, goals, etc. That's what we also need to do in the process in working with the CPA firms that we are trying to woo as well. So with that, guys, where we left off in the last webinar was basically we finished the second meeting, and we're about to begin to speak about what would go on at the lunch meeting. So one of the things that I want you to get out, and it could be, by the way, the opportunity responsibility conversation is either in meeting 2 or at the lunch meeting most generally. It could sometimes be in the third meeting, but I want you to have this conversation with the CPA as the CPA is starting to see your organization. You will be getting some buy-in, right? So I have to envision where you are. You had your first meeting. You just finished the office visit, right? During that office visit, hopefully the CPA is going to be giving you some positive signs. Hey, John, I really like your financial planning software. I never saw a Morningstar report or understood what a beta or an alpha really was. Thanks for explaining that to me. It's awesome that you can get your cost basis right off the system. Your sales consulting department is great. You could just call and get that information. That's an unbelievable resource. So as the CPA is saying things like that, what's actually happening, guys, and this is sales psychology, here's what's happening. The CPA is starting to say, hey, this guy can help my clients, or this gal can help my clients. There might be a fit here. And then the way a CPA is built, skeptical, cautious, analytical, what's going to innately begin to happen is they're going to start to feel as if maybe I'm moving too quickly. So the opportunity and responsibility conversation is almost meant to have them start to think that you're about to turn into the salesperson that they actually thought you were before you met with them, but then you're going to turn the tables on them a little bit and show them that you really get it and you really understand what their concerns are. So it sounds something like this, guys, right? You know, hey, Ken, I got to share with you, as we're sitting here talking, and I really appreciate the positive feedback that you just gave me a little bit about my practice here. I got to share with you, one of the things that I'm thinking about is this is a huge opportunity. And, you know, I also want to share it's probably a really big responsibility also. Here's what I mean when I say that, Ken. The reason I say it's a huge opportunity is, you know, if you called your 10 favorite clients today and you asked your clients and said, hey, I have a financial planner that I trust that is doing great work for my clients. I'd like you to come on in and meet with him and do an audit of your financial situation and get a second opinion. And by the way, Mr. Client, I'll be sitting in that meeting with you. I bet if you called 10 of your clients, Ken, I bet you 9 of them would come in and meet with us next week. And I know you have that kind of trust with your clients. That's a huge opportunity. You know, but as I'm sitting here and trying to put myself in your shoes, Ken, it's also a really big responsibility. And I don't know if I've ever really thought about it that way, but, you know, these clients trust you. You spent 25 years building your practice. And when you refer a client to me, I understand that if things don't go well and your clients don't have the experience that they hope for or you hope for, at the end of the day, that may make you look bad, and your clients are going to probably hold you responsible if it doesn't go as well as they hope. What I want to make sure that you really understand, Ken, is I get that. I totally respect it. And what I really want to do is I want you to do as much due diligence as you need to in order to ultimately have 100% confidence that I am the right guy for the job. And I want you to also understand, at the end of the day, it's you that's my client. I'm going to be working for you, and my number one job is to make sure that I always make you look good to your clients. And I just want you to know that that's my belief, and if we do choose to work together, that is certainly what I will call the kind of the code of conduct that I expect you and I to work under. So I just felt obliged to share that with you, and don't know if you had any thoughts. Okay? When you say that to a CPA, guys, think about what that does. It eliminates, I shouldn't say eliminates, it alleviates is a better word, a lot of the concerns and the butterflies that they have in their belly, and makes them at least recognize that you're conscious of what their concerns are, that you're cognizant of what their concerns are. And what I really like about it is they started to think, when I talked about the opportunity, oh man, here it comes, I knew I couldn't trust this guy, and then we turn it on them. I got to share with you guys, I've been using it for a number of years. It always works. It goes over unbelievably well, and it's very, very impactful. So again, that's going to happen meeting 2, maybe at the lunch meeting, depending on where things are going. So I want to move to the lunch meeting now. So we've had our office visit. It went well. Maybe we have the opportunity and responsibility conversation. Here is what's going on, guys, in the lunch meeting. Right? This is really where the relationship starts to progress. I can't stress it enough, guys. Don't skip it. When you break bread with somebody, guess what? The relationship begins to change. It truly does begin to change. The purpose of a lunch meeting is to continue to build rapport and to solicit feedback on your operation. As I've mentioned, ideally it will happen directly after the second meeting. Now, here's what I want you to do, guys. As soon as you come from your office to lunch, I want you to really not have in the beginning of this meal a whole bunch of small talk and dialogue. I want you to go, hey, Ken, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to check out my operation today. I got a lot of respect of you as a business owner and business person, and I really wanted to get your feedback on what you thought. And then you're just going to shut up and let them tell you, hopefully, how great you are and what a great operation you run and how impressed they were. And if they're not telling you all that you want, you're going to ask them questions. What do you think about the financial planning software? What do you think about the portfolio performance tool that we use? What do you think about that Roth IRA calculator? Get where I'm going, guys? Let them tell you good things. Many of you have heard me say already, get them on the yes train, right? When you say to someone, does that make sense to you? Yes. Am I making any sense to you? Yes. Do you think that would be a positive thing in your situation? Yes. Guess what? When the next question is, my fee is $1,000, there shouldn't be a no. Yes, yes, yes means yes. So that's what you're doing, right? You're getting them on the yes train by them telling you all those positive things. And then what I'm going to say is something along these lines. You know, Ken, I've got to share with you, I'm really excited that you found so much value in my practice or believe my practice is a well-run business and we're impressed by it. It sounds like we may be a good fit, and I hope you feel the same. What do you think that CPA is going to say back? I feel the same way. Yes, John, it may be a good fit. I'm feeling good about it too. Where do we go from here? My clients could benefit. Whatever it is they say, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be very positive. I'm going to then say something like this. You know, Ken, I've got to share with you, I'm glad that you feel that way. Here's what I want to make sure that we do. I want to make sure that we have some consistency in our meeting so that we can continue to learn more about each other's businesses and really make sure that this is going to be the right fit for each other. Is that okay with you? Yeah, John, that's great. All right, and then we're going to go and we're going to set up some time to make sure that we have a standard, ongoing, regular time to get together with the CPA. We're going to schedule a follow-up meeting, which would now be meeting 3, right? We're still at lunch now, and now we're getting ready to go into meeting 3. So a week later or so, meeting 3, here's what I call setting the table for meeting 3, okay? So this is going to be happening, guys, sometime at the end of lunch. All of those little bullet points that I just went through on the last slide, this script pretty much does what those bullet points does. At the end of the meeting, this is how I want you to wrap it. So I'm going to say, hey, Ken, thanks for the feedback, and I'm glad you enjoyed checking out my operation. Based on the positive comments that you had, it really sounds as if you think I may be able to be a resource to your clients to help them achieve their financial goals. You want to get confirmation, right? So what I mean when I say that is you want them to say, you know, yeah, John, I really was impressed. I think you should be able to be in a position to help some of my clients, et cetera. Then what I'm going to say after they gave me that confirmation is, you know, Ken, clearly we should both still do a little bit more due diligence before we create a formal alliance, but I can share with you, I'm really excited, and I think this could be an unbelievably good fit for you and I. So a little bit of a takeaway, right? You like that word due diligence in there. I am just like you. One of the things that I've learned owning my own business for a number of years, Ken, is that in order to make any business relationship work, is that the most important part is consistently meeting with your business partner and starting with the end goal in mind, having a plan, right, guys? Well, remember, guys, someone is only going to follow you if you know where you're going. To that point, I wanted to suggest that you and I agree to do 2 things. Now, the first thing, Ken, is I think we should set up a regular time each week for 30 minutes or so where you and I can meet in order to make sure our relationship's moving in the right direction. Now, I'll work around your schedule and make sure that it's convenient for you. Second thing I want to make sure that we do, as I said, is to really begin to discuss what the end in mind is. I'd like to have a follow-up meeting with you next week to discuss potential ways that you and I may be able to create our business relationship and see what the best fit is. As I said, Ken, I really think we're on to something here, and I just want to make sure that you're seeing the same opportunity that I am. Shut up, get some feedback. Hopefully what they're going to say, they're not guys just going to roll over there and say, absolutely, John, can't wait to get started. You know, how do I get licensed next week? But they're probably going to say something like, no, I agree. You know what? It seems like this could be a good fit. I thought about it over the years. This may be finally the right time. The economy is weak, so adding another business might be a good idea, blah, blah, blah. They're going to say something positive, and once they say something positive, I'm then going to say, I couldn't agree with you more, Ken, and I'm excited about it too. Let's set up that next time to get together, and let's see how things go and progress from here. Fair enough, fair enough. I'm going to set that meeting, and I'm going to move on and go ahead and continue to progress. That script in front of you guys is one of the most important pieces that we have in the program. You really need to get yourself into a position where you can deliver that well so the CPAs are actually understanding where it is that you're ultimately trying to lead them. If that conversation doesn't happen, I should say, we may have some trouble in continuing to build that process on an ongoing basis. So what that takes us to now, guys, is what I will call, I call it the business opportunity discussion, getting the CPA commitment, but this is really meeting 3, right? So this is really, we just had our lunch meeting. We're now getting together for the 3rd meeting where I just defined in the previous script what the intention was. It's really to start to build a game plan together. So I have 2 different what I'll call options, option A and option B. The 2 scripts are for different candidates. So option A, as you can see, is really for a CPA who's not fully ready for the marketing and business opportunity discussion, and they need to be brought along slowly. This is going to be used more often than not. So this is your typical CPA who you're dragging along, who's nodding his or her head. Okay, yep, that makes sense. I'll hear more. I'll hear more. Not the person who's saying, where do we go from here, John? I'm in. I want to do it. That's what kind of option B is for. So this is moving them slowly, trying to get them to dip their foot in the pool without diving in head first. So I'm going to say something along these lines. Hey, Ken, I wanted to share with you how excited I am that you and I have had the opportunity over the last couple of months to really get to know each other and really get to know about our practices. You know, it's rare that you're able to find another professional that has the same type of business ethics and integrity, and I'm glad we were able to find each other. Again, guys, you just hear my end of the conversation. Hopefully what they say back is, yeah, me too, I feel really good about you and your operation, blah, blah, blah. What I'm then going to say is, I truly believe that you and I can create a better overall client experience. That's what it's about still, guys, right? It's not about how much money we can make the CPA or the business. It's about a better client experience for each of our client bases if we collaborate together. And I wanted to have a discussion with you today to discuss how we can begin to dip our foot in the pool before we dive in. That sound like something a CPA might say to you? Let's be cautious. Let's move slowly. Let's not take any risks. So dip our foot into the pool before we dive in. If it's okay, I wanted to brainstorm together about ways we can start to work together. Now, I have there some of the options we should consider as a good conservative first step could be. But when you open up, say, brainstorm, the first thing I'm going to say is, do you have any thoughts, Ken, on ways that we might be able to begin to dip our foot in the pool and see if this is the right fit for your clients, me doing financial planning for them? Now, if they have ideas, embrace their ideas. If it's their idea, guys, guess what? It's a good one. All we want to do is get them to do something, right? That's the goal. We want to get them to do something. So whatever they're comfortable is what we want to do. Now, if they don't have any ideas, which is likely many times, we want to have some. So here are a couple of examples that I give you. Hey, Ken, we can do a complimentary portfolio review for you. I'll give you guys a perfect example. We recently set up a relationship that I think I shared last webinar with a large Manhattan CPA firm. I have either 12 or 14 half-hour meetings set up with partners of the firm who are now in licensing, brand new relationship with the firm, and what we are doing is we are going to do a complimentary review of their current 401k plan, which we are taking over, by the way, about their own portfolios within the 401k. So here's why this is important, guys. Number one, it gets me in front of the CPA. Number two, it gives me an idea of how they invest their own money, so I understand how educated they are. Number three, it gives me an opportunity to provide value, right? To educate them about their own investments and to use that as an opportunity to talk about asset allocation, to talk about value versus growth and momentum investing, to talk betas and alphas and rebalancing, so they can begin to experience the advice that I will ultimately be giving their clients. If I can provide value to them, they're going to be that much more likely to suggest their clients work with me. Okay, so there's an idea that we're practically putting to work next week in our own practice. Another idea, you can tell the CPA to consider calling a few of your clients that you have strong relationships with and have me do a complimentary portfolio review for them. This would allow you to observe me in a meeting and give yourself an opportunity to solicit feedback from some of your most trusted clients, right? You will get some CPAs who say, yeah, why don't we do that? You guys remember one of the stories Ken told you in the live, in either live training or one of the webinars, was that the first client Ken gave me was one of his longest-term clients, and the whole reason he referred that client to me, I didn't know it at the time, of course, was to get her feedback on me. and the feedback was favorable, which helped him feel more comfortable. That's an idea we can give the CPA. Third idea is call 10 or so of your trusted clients and get their opinion in regards to you getting involved in integrating financial planning into your practice. Sort of create an advisor's council to solicit feedback. So in other words, hey Ken, call 10 of your favorite clients, tell them that you're thinking about building a relationship with a financial planning firm, and you wanted to know as their CPA if that was something that they were involved in and oversaw and did the due diligence and made sure they picked a trusted firm. Would that be valuable to you as a client? That's an easy call for a CPA to make, guys. That's something we can suggest. Again, all dip your foot in the pool ideas. Allow me to sponsor a small private dining event for 10 of your clients. No business discussed, just a way to solicit feedback, sort of as an advisory council. Number 5, I could sponsor an educational financial services workshop in which you can invite your clients. 6, have me sponsor and guest speak at a client appreciation event to your clients. And again, guys, we sell that the right way, right? Their clients can bring referrals. That can be good for them in their practice. We'll pick up the tab for the event, et cetera, et cetera. So, guys, these are a few ideas that I had come to mind. What do you think would be the best and most comfortable way to get started? That's what we're asking the CPA. Now, make no mistakes about it, guys. You don't need to give them all 6 of these ideas. I don't want this to be a script. I want you to be armed with a couple of non-threatening ideas. I don't care which one the CPA chooses. I just want them to choose something which will continue to have us push that ball forward, as I like to say. So you may have some of your own non-threatening ideas. That's fine. These are not, there are many other good ideas. These are just 5 or 6 that we've used that have been effective for us, and tailor it to the CPA you're working with. If you have someone who's very, very cautious, pick the one that's less intrusive, right? If you have somebody who's a little bit more engaged and you think a client appreciation event would be something they might bite on, well, that's a good way to go because that's going to be more beneficial for you and your practice than that CPA calling 10 clients and asking them what would they think, kind of interviewing them. So kind of use your head there a little bit as a whole. Okay, so that's what that conversation is, guys. And then the key is you want to agree to at least one idea and then hold them to implement it. And then again, guys, that should be the beginning of the relationship continuing to blossom. Option B, and for sake of time here, guys, it looks like I'm going to have time to go through option B, and then I will go deeper into meeting 3 and start to get into meeting 4 in our next webinar as well. Option B is for a very engaged CPA who's ready for the marketing and business opportunity discussion. So this is the CPA who is probably in that 20% that I described that wants to integrate financial planning, okay? And I just honestly had a lunch with a CPA who was right in this category. At lunch, we had this conversation with the CPA because he was pretty much ready to go, knew he wanted to do it, and had already bought into us. So again, if you have an engaged CPA who's ready to go, it sounds a little different. The first bullet point here, guys, is exactly the same as what I went through in option A. Where it changes some is the second bullet point. So it's going to start the same. I truly believe that you and I can create a better overall client experience for our client bases if we collaborate together, and I wanted to have a discussion with you today to choose which option would be best for us working together going forward. Although we've touched on this before, I wanted to go deeper and really discuss the potential financial impact each option could have on your practice and help you choose what might be the best fit for you. Specifically, how we can create a marketing plan to successfully integrate financial planning into your practice. So guys, this is where we start to talk turkey a little bit, and this is where I'm going to have my 3-option discussion and where I'm going to really start to push the ball forward. Based on our discussions, I created a draft of a marketing plan and a spreadsheet to illustrate a reasonable expectation of revenue you could generate by offering your clients financial planning. We're going to go deep into this, guys, in the next webinar, how to present the business deal. But this is where option B is taking us for an engaged CPA who's really ready to roll and wants to move forward. We're going to review the marketing plan, present the compensation spreadsheet, all that kind of good stuff, which, again, we're going to hit at that next webinar. So with that, guys, our next webinar, we're running out of a little time here, we're going to go more deeply into meeting 3 and meeting 4. I hope to complete that. And you know what? Unfortunately, once I get going here, guys, there's so much to talk about that it's not necessarily always possible to hit everything on each agenda. But what I wanted to close up with here before we open the lines up for Q&A is to really just take a minute and to explain again. I'm going to also, by the way, guys, go through our homework in a minute. But what I want to also do is just really make sure what I'm hoping you got out of today is not just the steps that you want to follow, which is important, but I want you to really begin to understand sales psychology. And I want you to go into a meeting, guys, fully understanding what it is you want to accomplish. If you can go into a meeting understanding what it is you want to accomplish, you're really just in that meeting, and this is what I do in meetings, and you're listening and having dialogue and hearing what the CPA is saying, and you're going to pick and choose your spots in where you can influence the meeting. And when you do very little talking, 30% of the talking, what winds up happening, guys, is when you do get your moment to speak, you have to make sure that what you're saying is supporting what you need to have happen. And because you're not monopolizing the conversation, what you say is heard. You speak 70% of the time, half of it's going to go in and out the CPA's ear. If you speak 30% of the time, they are going to wind up hearing what you have to say. And as long as you fully understand our process, what you're going to say is going to influence what's important, which is pushing the ball forward in the area based on the meeting you're in that you need that meeting to go. So I know that sounds, guys, a little bit like, squeamish, or for lack of a better word, for psychobabble. But the reality is, guys, if you get what I'm saying, and when you get the replay of this webinar, listen to it a couple of times, if you get it, if you can connect that, guys, that is going to be the key to you having success, in my opinion, in working with the CPAs. From a homework perspective, guys, keep building your database. We talked about that. I can't impress enough the importance of developing your team. They should be doing the heavy lifting. You need to lead them. It's the leader, it's always the leader. 2 CPA PMMs, we call them, or initial meetings, need to be scheduled and conducted per week. This will only happen if your team is dialing at least an hour a day, 5 hours per week. Don't fool yourself. If you don't hold them accountable or yourself accountable, it will not happen. I shared with you statistics of people who just finished the first-year program. Those who saw 2 a week succeeded big time. Those who didn't failed. Make sure the activity is happening. Not only is it just a numbers game, but you're going to get better at what you do and following the system if you do it 60 times as opposed to 6. One random act of kindness for each CPA you have what I will consider to be the makings of a relationship with. You know what, guys? If it's holiday time, drop off a poinsettia plant. Drop off a breakfast, lunch any time of year. Tax season gift basket, bagels, T-shirts, lunch. I almost don't care what it is, but as I think I mentioned earlier, a lot of advisors aren't doing this part. It works. It greases the wheels. It gets you an extra meeting. It really, truly, guys, does make you top of mind and does help, as I had said, add a little grease to those wheels, which allows you more access to the CPA. And we all know all good things happen if we meet with the CPA weekly or biweekly. And then lastly, in the next 6 to 8 weeks, some of you already have this planned. Let's have a CPE workshop for your CPAs. You want prospects there, but more importantly, you want CPAs that are now CPAs that you are working on forming relationships with. This is another way to have interaction, and to fulfill a good task, if you will, something they need to do, help them fulfill one of their responsibilities, I should say, and at the same time continue to build your credibility by bringing valuable education to the CPA. Make sure, guys, that these homework assignments are being followed through on. And with that, the last piece that I wanted to share is, call every CPA that you know this week and just say, hey, just call in to say hello. Shoot them an email. Ask them what they're doing for the weekend. Wish them a happy holiday during the holidays. Just make sure that what you are doing is proactive. If you're doing these little reach outs, trust me when I say they make a little difference. Even if it's a voicemail or an email, it's another contact and it's better than nothing. So with that, guys, I truly hope that you got a lot out of today's webinar. Next webinar, we should be able to complete step 3 or meeting 3 and 4 in the sales process. And then, as you know, each month we just continue to, to build on that. So continue to go to work, guys and gals. Make sure that the activity is there. Make sure that you keep a laser-like focus on the program. I'm really excited in the fact that I'm hearing about a lot of successes from the group. And as you know, it's all about the little things. So make sure that all of those little steps are happening on a daily and weekly basis. So I will speak with you guys soon, and we are going to open up the lines here for Q&A. Have a great day, everybody.